Hi, I'm Kelvin.
And I'm Naomi, and we've been married for 12 years.
Oh, marriage to me is trust, loyalty, and lots of love. And actually depending on one another and making sure that no one else come in between your marriage, but that you take the time to dedicate it towards each other first, and then others come secondary. That's what marriage is to me.
Marriage to me is security, safety, submission, having somebody who can cover me in, just cover me in prayer, somebody who can cover me in my finances, who I feel secure with, that I can talk to and share everything with, the person who knows more about me than anybody else. It means being connected, it means being persistent, it means sacrificing, and just sharing my love with somebody like nobody else. When we got married, we were older. I was 39 years old. And what I told myself at that time is that I'm not looking for a knight in shining armor. Marriage to me is not a fairy tale. I knew that it was going to be difficult, that my husband was a whole, single, successful man on his own, as I was a whole, single, and successful woman on my own. And bringing those two together, it was going to be difficult. So I would have definitely told myself to not be so rigid, not be so set in my ways as having been a single person for so long, and just to give my husband a little more grace and a little more mercy, but I would still do it over and over again.
12 years ago, I believe I was 50, and I had no idea that where we at today would been a somewhat of a different journey in between then and now getting here. But thank God that the journey that we were on and the journey that we're taking, that it brought out some things in me that I didn't know was there. And because of the things that we went through, being a blended family, it made me a better person, not bitter, but better. Because if it had not been for the Lord on my side, I don't think that I would have made it through to today.
Advice I would give to blended families is take your time. A woman actually told me, a minister who is also a marriage and family counselor told me that it takes 7 years for a blended family to blend. And I believe that to be true. It's very difficult when you have a child, when you are single, never having been married, and it's just been the two of you, to bring another person into that dynamic who has another child who had never been married. And so you think that it's going to be easy to make those two things blend, but there's a relationship between the biological parent and their child that just gets to be strained when you're in a blended family. So it takes a lot of love, it takes a lot of sacrifice and understanding, it takes a lot of stepping back, and sometimes it takes stepping in front of your children. And so the advice that I would give is to protect your children, but to put the marriage first. You can't put your children before your spouse. The spouse also always has to come first. But then, and when you're doing disciplining with blended families, it's important that the biological parent disciplines their own child in the beginning, so that there isn't animosity and hard feelings between the new parent and the biological parent.
And I would like to add to that, and I think she's right when she says that when it comes to the biological parent, that's one thing that I wish I had done differently, that would allow her to make a lot of the disciplined decisions when it came to our son Justin. Because I think if she had done more of the disciplined decision, the relationship would have been a lot better than it was. And we're still working on it, and with prayer and with our faith, that it's going to get better. It will be better. Glad you asked. One of the things that brought me through tough times, first and foremost, was my faith in God. I always tell people it was by His grace that I was able to get through, because there was time when I was talking about, I'm out of here, because some of the things that were going on, and because I didn't sign up for a lot of things that we occur in those difficult times. But having been a member of Bethany Baptist Church and the men's fellowship made a lot of difference in my life. It's the men that were there, and iron sharpen iron, the word of God said, iron sharpen iron, and you are your brother's keeper. And that because of that men's fellowship, and that men don't realize how important it is that when you're going through some things, that you have other men that you can count on and rely on, and be sincere about letting folks know. Sometimes you don't want to come out and let people know what you're going through, but be sincere, because that's what prayer does. Because you can rely on other people to help pray you through what you can't get through by yourself. And by the grace of God, we got through it.
I would have to agree. I think humility, honesty, and transparency are some of the things that got me through the most difficult times in my marriage, when I thought that I was absolutely, positively going to lose my mind. And I belong to the Women of Judah dance ministry, again at Bethany Baptist Church. And I always said that we were more than just dance, because before we even began our dance rehearsal, we entered into worship. There was worship music playing. You came in, you cleared your mind, you just got into worship with you and the Lord, and then we would gather together as sisters. We interceded for each other in prayer. Even the Bible studies that we did pertaining to each dance ministry presentation that we did was significant at that time in my life. There were times when I was in dance ministry, laying prostrate on the floor before the Lord in complete, total worship and adoration of Him. And my sisters in Christ were there to help me when I was just raw, hurting, transparent, and needed somebody not to judge me, but for somebody to come along and to hold me up when I thought that I couldn't hold up myself. And even though I had my husband, there were just some things that I needed to tell my sisters. And I talked to them, and they helped me. And just that humility, honesty, and transparency was what really, really got me through some very difficult times.
Amen. Amen. My. Great question. Right now? It's coming together and unity, because the enemy is busy when it comes to marriages. And actually, I was just talking to someone the other day about how the enemy, looking from the beginning of time, looking to tear down marriages. And if we're not careful, we allow the enemy in so many ways these days that he don't have to try to break in. We let him in. So when it comes to marriages, we have to understand that we have to be on one accord. If we talking about it's a 3-band, it have to be a 3-band. You can't shy away from that 3-band. You, your wife, and God. They have to continue to be that 3-band. And we know that our warfare is not carnal, right? It's spiritual. Mm-hmm. So it's tearing down all them strongholds that we are allowed to knock on our door and come into our household, because once he's in, he's taking the seat. Mm-hmm. And he ain't trying to get out. So we have to make sure that you're on one accord, and our kids, your kids are watching. And they know whether or not you're on one accord or not. And sometimes the enemy uses the kids to tear down that relationship. Mm-hmm. So we have to make sure that we say what we say and do what we say we're going to do, and represent God the way we're supposed to represent him, so that enemy can flee. That's the only way he's going to flee. Amen.
Well, I see our marriage going to a different place than I expected in the future. So as a physician and as a pediatrician, I talk to children, I talk to adolescents, I talk to young adults, and I talk to parents. Every day I talk. And so with my voice, I teach. I teach about medicine. I teach about safe sex practices in my older adolescents. I talk about mental health issues. I talk about family when my patients are experiencing parents who divorce or the death of a grandparent. So there's a lot of teaching that I do. And so I knew that there was a place in my life where I needed to make a change. When I turned 50 years old, I thought that I needed to be thinking about my legacy and what is the mission of my marriage and the mission of my family. And so I thought I was going to teach medicine, but that's not what I was supposed to teach. God put our marriage here, and we endure the things that we did so that our marriage can be a life lesson to other families that are blended. And so when my son Justin was going through the most difficult times and difficult seasons in his life, I used to say, well, why is this happening to my child? I had him when I was in medical school as a single parent and graduated on time. And so the Lord must have something great in store for him. And so when he was going through the difficult times, I used to think that maybe we weren't the best parents that we could have been for him. But he will tell you that we were good parents for him. And so rather than saying, God, why? I started asking God, what is the lesson that you're trying to teach me? Because now we have to go out and teach other parents of blended families. And so I'm writing a book that's called Blended Beyond Expectation to that end. And my expectation is that book will be released in 2019. And so my husband will be by my side, and we will go forth in unity promoting this book and teaching and speaking to other husbands and wives about the blended family experience. So that's where I see our marriage going. And our pain certainly does have purpose, and we're going to share that with others.
I'm Kelvin.
And I'm Naomi Hugh, and that's what marriage means to us.